I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is
On this
that
sad
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Proud of my address.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha Pack, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
We've got a really exciting guest here, and
Hold on. Start over. You can't say we've got an exciting guest because we just said that. Let's change up the introduction a little bit.
All right. Welcome to another episode of The Gloom. Our theme for this one is going to be ice works fast, but heat makes it last. We got a guest on today, very special to me. He's a former Site Q at Paradise Island, is a phenomenal leader both in the community and within F3. And I have had the joy of many conversations with this guy just about life, about work, Concentrica, Q Source. How do we just get better at being men that support our families and our communities? And so Icy Hot is on The Gloom today. If you didn't recognize, that was the slogan from Icy Hot. And Icy, why don't you take us to the start? Who EH'd you? What was that first workout like? And then, your nickname is Icy Hot, but I don't know if that's the slogan you live by or if there's another reason that we gave you that name.
Well, geez, what an introduction. I do appreciate being a guest here today on The Gloom. What's that old saying? Long-time listener, first-time caller. That's what I feel like today. I've heard so many other people come on, but shoot, my F3 journey began June 13th, 2020. It was a Saturday morning at the pit. And it really began probably a month before then. And nobody EH'd me other than Twitter. Friends with Sparty. Sparty and I went to the same high school. In fact, I gave Sparty a ride to Creighton Prep High School as a freshman. So I knew him, had not talked to him in years. Birdman was a graduate at Prep same year I was. So again, somebody I had followed on Twitter, and I kept seeing these Namerama videos, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I go to the website, I look at the website, I'm like, oh, what is this? What time is it? Where is it located? And I think the Saturday before I finally came out, I told my wife, like that Friday night, I'm going to go give this a shot. I'm just going to show up and see what this is all about. I didn't set an alarm, nothing. Kind of sometimes I can be a little too much talk, not enough action. And that's kind of what happened. I just overslept. So again, the following June 12th, Friday night, I said the same thing to my wife. She says, no, you're not. You're not going to get up. She goes, we heard this last week. Again, did not set an alarm clock. All of a sudden, I rolled out of bed. It was, I think, 6:20 in the morning. This is when the pit was still at 7 a.m. I pull up, slow pitch is on the queue. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, other than I saw Namerama videos, and I knew that everybody had this weird nickname that they would say at the end of the workout. Well, I park my car, I walk in. There were so many people there. As most people know, slow pitch draws people in. It's got to be his sense of humor and his lengthy COTs that draw people in. But I had to park over by the shelter. I walked down that little hill and across the road over to the Shovel Flags, and I'm greeted immediately by a few PAX members. And, hey, what's your name? How'd you hear about us? Who brought you out? All of that stuff. Well, when I tell people that really Twitter brought me out, they were a little shocked. But I get in that circle at the very beginning as we go through the disclaimer, the core principles, the mission statement. And I look around that circle, and Big One is there, who I went to high school with. So I knew him. I think I'm trying to remember some other guys that were there that I knew of. Safe Ride I knew Safe Ride because he hung out with some other guys that I went to grade school, middle school with. So, I start to realize I know some of these people. And I think we get through DDJs, the slow pitch favorite. At that point, that might have been 15 minutes into this workout, I sat there and I said, I'm just thinking in my head, what did I get myself into? And just the constant encouragement kept me pushing myself. And, the first time you're out there, you don't want to look like that person that is modifying. So you're pushing yourself a little bit harder. But I know I don't know if I breathed much after the first 15 minutes of that workout. And all I kept thinking is, how much longer does this go? And I remember one person saying, Saturday workouts are the worst. That extra 15 minutes of working out, it can push you over the limit. I'm sitting here going, 15 minutes in, I was ready to quit. But we get to the end of the workout. We get back into that circle. And I didn't give the Packs much to work with when it came to a nickname. I got in the middle, told them, I'm married, got 2 kids. I'm an athletic trainer. I work at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, run the sports medicine department, and everybody kept going that direction. And I think Big One finally said Icy Hot, and Slow Pitch stuck with that. And then, so 2.5 years later, I have been known as Icy Hot. And, I went home that morning, and the first thing I told my wife wasn't, "Hey, I got this cool nickname." It was, "I told you I was going to get up and go."
That's awesome. I was actually hoping that story would have ended with, I'd watched the Twitter videos. I knew these guys had nicknames, and hey, I just told people my name was Icy Hot, and so I named myself essentially.
No, it did not do that. But I was like, I thought the name was just okay. Sometimes you hear people with these names and you're like, wow, that's a really good name. But you really do embrace that name, and it becomes, it almost starts you. And I relate this to, when you bring home, or when you have that birth of a baby, it's like a new beginning for you, and that new name, and you embrace it. And that is who you are, and your personality is that name. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, and I really do want to highlight the fact that you came just based off of Twitter posts. You weren't EH'd by anybody, because that is so rare. It's always, hey, yeah, so and so brought me out. I mean, I think there may be 5 guys total that have ever come out because they just felt the desire to do so on their own initiative. I mean, was there something in particular that drove you to say, hey, like, yeah, this looks cool, or if these guys can do it, if Sparty can do this, I can do this?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the time period we were in. We were in COVID. COVID started mid-March. Sent home, didn't go to an office really for April, May, and I really wanted to be around other people. And I was sitting at home. I think every night turned into some sort of a gathering, whether it was at my house with one other family or at this other family's house, and all we did was drink. So I was looking for something else. I worked out. I got on the elliptical probably 4 or 5 times a week, and rode that elliptical for 30 to 45 minutes. That was the max amount of exercise I was getting during that COVID period. And I got bored with it. And it's like running on a treadmill. How much can you stare at the same 4 walls? And I was just looking for something different. And I saw these guys were having so much fun in the morning, had a smile on their face. And I was like, let's give it a shot. What do I have to lose? I'm going to get and like so many people say, you go for the workout. Well, it's so much more than that. And yeah, the workout was great. It was much better than riding an elliptical. But as you get more involved with F3 and get to know some of these people, you realize they're going through the same struggles. During COVID, so much was closed down. Okay, you had alcohol, and you had your family, and that was about it. So for me, it was an opportunity to replace a bad habit with maybe a good habit. You're getting in shape, but on the other hand, for myself, I can easily become addicted to something. And when I joined F3, I jumped in with both feet, and I posted that Saturday. I was sore, really Sunday, Monday, and I showed up again at Cornhusker on that Tuesday, and I heard somebody say, well, I don't miss. And I said, well, if that person, and it was Khakis, I said, well, if Khakis doesn't miss, then I'm not going to miss. And I think I went just about every day there was a place to post. And for those first, well, really all the way up until November of 2020, December of 2020, I posted about every day. And there were very few sites in Sarpy County. Being a Sarpy County PAX, you only had one way to go, and that was north from Sarpy County. So that's where I went just about every day. And, you know, part of it was probably selfish on my part. As school got back into session, I knew I had my routine. I left my wife at home with really one child. My oldest, he was in middle school. They started later. He was really good at getting himself ready for the day and walked to school. I mean, we live right across the street from the middle school, so he walked. But my daughter, being in elementary school, I took off at 4:30 in the morning. So I could arrive for a pre-run, get the beat down in at 5:30, and I'd just go straight to work. I had to be at work at 7 a.m. So I'm like, I'd rather make the drive with no traffic early in the morning than leave the house at 6:20, 6:30, get stuck in traffic. And I sat there and internalized it. I'm like, I'm only going to be home for about 15 minutes when my daughter's awake. So is that 15 minutes, you know, I internalized it, said it's only 15 minutes. Well, really looking back on it, probably a little selfish on my part. And it took a couple conversations between my wife and I. And, but I had this conversation with different PAX members, and everybody just kind of shakes their head and says, yep, we've been there before.
Yeah, I totally get it. And a lot to unpack there. First, I think all of us are better off having you here than stuck on the elliptical you were on. So I commend you for making the change. We're definitely a lot better off. I'm certainly a better person having you here. I've had the privilege of going on a lot of pre-runs with you, getting to know you as a person. So super grateful for you for making that change. And, you know, I think I just want to just give you some praise here, because I think it is so unique and so brave for you to kind of step outside of your box and try something new. And I think you went into it with the right attitude of, hey, what's the worst that could happen, right? What's the worst that these guys could possibly do to me or say to me that, that I won't live through the next day? So
it's comforting to know, though, that you were able to get from Twitter to the website and find the locations. Like that's a good feeling. Like there's some linkage there. But I guess I was more curious, as a trainer, I mean, is Icy Hot the product you would have wanted to be, or are you more of a BioFreeze? Bengay? I mean, what would have been your preferred product there?
Well, if I have to be named after an analgesic, I would definitely take Icy Hot over some of the other options. I mean, every day saying BioFreeze, it's a little longer. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Bengay, I don't know. I think Icy Hot, for me, I like the one syllable. I mean, you can cut it down to icy, and, a little shorter. Yeah. And I get icy a lot. And, icy, not even one syllable. I think icy is 2 syllables. So, but, it definitely, I definitely feel like I'm blessed by having that analgesic name versus any other.
Yeah. Well, and shout out to Nantan out at F3 Greenwood. He's Bengay. So that's, it's interesting, just the number. And I'm also curious, could we do this disclaimer, right? You're like, I'm not a professional, but in some regards, right, you have some professional background in this fitness space. How have you, interacted with that?
Yeah, it's a interesting dynamic. I always tell people, in this location, in this space, I am not a professional, merely suggestions. The way I look at it, I'm not a big morning person. So I'm not thinking clearly until after the workout. So, but it's been nice because you have an opportunity to understand from my background, understanding, how things kind of go together a little bit more. But early on, yes, I may have put more thought into the workout and looking at, sets, reps, what exercises we want to do. Are we trying to be explosive? Are we trying to do power, strength, whatever? The workout is so secondary. And I think that comes over time, you start to realize that. I think even as I put together my cues, I put more emphasis in the COTs than I do the workout. For me, it's about getting a group of guys together, have an opportunity to connect, share whatever's on your mind, your heart with the guy next to you, and then leave some sort of impact or something that the packs can take with them when they leave that workout that day. For me, that's what's become more important over the course of my F3 journey.
I love that. And I think you're spot on, right? And I think most guys would say that second half is really the glue. I think even Pre-Delete might say that. I am curious your thoughts on, so fitness wise, right? It sounds like you had something going on. Pandemic really impacted what you were looking for. And then F3 has been able to fill that gap from a fitness perspective. But tell me about the second half, because it sounds like you knew quite a few guys. And so what was your experience with like coffee or Q Source or maybe pre-running? I mean, where did you find that second half engagement?
The first time I posted, I heard, hey, come on over. We're going to go over to the Dairy Queen. We'll go to the Beanery, go sit over at the Dairy Queen, come on over for coffee. And I was like, yeah. I still wasn't thinking straight or didn't have enough oxygen to the brain at that point. I went home. I was like, I'm on this high. It almost like, workout high, meeting all these people, a little overwhelmed at first because it was a big group that day. And, but the second time I posted, went to coffee and realized, oh, wait, there's more to this, and the opportunity to go have coffee, and it doesn't have to be long. I mean, you could be there 5-10 minutes and hit the road. So important to continue that conversation, especially for the guys that are fairly new. You can barely catch your breath during the course of a workout, whether it's on a pre-run or the actual beat down. So to be able to put thoughts together and express those thoughts is so important at that coffee. And I found coffee to be extremely important. And I had the ability to go just about every day, which is certainly beneficial. Go to the beat down, go have coffee, go to work. I was blessed to be able to shower, get changed, get ready for the workday at my place of employment. So you didn't have to rush to go back home. Whereas now I have to rush, and I miss that coffee in the morning. When a site has coffee on site, like the Bell Tower does currently, it's huge. You can sit there and have that conversation. You can get your 10 minutes of coffee without having to hop in a car, go to the location for coffee. And then, because at that point, I've got to turn around and hit the road. So the coffee is huge. Yes, I knew several people that were involved in F3. I'd say we hadn't connected in a period of time. So it was nice to reconnect with some, but also to meet new people.
So you were able to kind of go to those second half opportunities. I did want to circle back to something that you said earlier about how when you joined, you were all in, right? Like you both feet all in, and you talked about like this addictive thing that happens. Like I always describe it as a high, because in my opinion, you do get a lot of dopamine release, whether that be from the workout itself, if you get your fill from having like coffee with other guys and getting to know people. I mean, there's a lot there, and it's really easy for that first couple of months to say, yes, I'm doing this and I'm doing this 150%. And then, oh shit, I'm 2 months in, my wife is bringing this up that I'm doing this 150%, and now I'm only doing 20% of my family life. And so having to reconcile that and make adjustments, I guess, how did you go about navigating that piece, Icy?
Yeah, I mentioned it took several conversations. I'm hard-headed. I'm stubborn. I don't like to be told, hey, what you're doing isn't right. You're neglecting other areas. And I think it really took some conversations with different PAX members.
Well, and that's hard to hear, right? I want to highlight something real quick, right? Like, hey, like, and Plague says this all the time. How can what I'm doing not be right? Because it's so good for me, and I'm not doing the things that were bad for me before. I'm not having drinks the night before because I know I've got to be accountable and go post, and I'm not, as Plague would say, I'm not doing lines of coke right now at 5:30 a.m. I'm working out. So what's the problem?
Exactly. And it took, yes, my wife saying something to me, but what it took was Tater Tot and Slow Pitch said, yeah, we've been there, and say, you got to listen to your wife and listen to her thoughts and her feelings and come to some sort of compromise. And that's really what we did. We came to a compromise. It probably, in my eyes, I felt like I gave away a lot. And in my wife's eyes, I probably didn't give up enough. And right now I'm still struggling. And I don't know.
Sounds like a good negotiation.
Yeah.
Both sides think they got screwed. So
yeah, exactly. So really what happened was Sarpy County started having some sites. So, and this is where the struggle really began for me is, yeah, Sarpy County had sites, but when I started, the guys I grew close to were posting in the district area. Those were the guys I wanted to go see every morning. It was the pre-runs with Pony, the pre-runs with Slow Pitch, that I truly enjoyed Flat Friday at the Woodshed and trying to keep up with the Plague. It's never going to happen, but that's where I wanted to go. Well, with Sarpy County having some sites, what that did is that allowed me an opportunity to come home. I could go post and come home. So that's what I did on Mondays. That's what I would do. I tried to do one other day of the week, whether it was the sanitarium on Tuesdays. But then, you have this internal struggle going, man, that's now like 4 days in a row. I haven't seen some guys up at Cornhusker. Cornhusker is probably one of my favorite sites. Just so much to do there, but yet somewhere you've got to have a little bit of give and take. And by being able to come home, I was able to contribute a little bit more to the morning routine. Right now, I'm still struggling. School started in August for my son. I take my son to school every morning. He's in high school at Creighton Prep. He's on 120th and Blondo. If I don't take my son to leave the house at 7 a.m. to get him to school on time, he's going to be late, and nobody else is going to get him there. So, I mean, certainly we could work out a carpool and different things, but if I have an office I can go work from 10 minutes from his school, it makes no sense. So let's just make sure I'm at home. I can take him to school. I can contribute to the morning. Now, this is where the struggle continues is, but I still want to post, and I still want to go north to the Coliseum, the battlefield, Paradise. That 1 month where I still had Paradise as the site queue caused me a lot of stress and anxiety, because I'm sitting here going, I'm the site queue, we have queue source afterwards, and I have to leave as soon as the beatdown's over, because it's going to take me 20 to 25 minutes to get back home so that I can get ready and get out the door at 7 to then get back out to 72nd and Western Avenue to drop him off at prep. So caused me some stress and some anxiety, but you know, everything works out. And in what I learned during that is, yes, you could be a site Q, you could have some sort of leadership responsibility, but don't be afraid to lean on others. You know, there's a lot of guys in this group that are willing to help, but you have to ask, and don't be afraid to say no. You know, that's another thing that gets me in trouble. You know, I spread myself too thin, and all of my saying yes causes friction at home. And I think that's where the balance, and I think I've always struggled with this, is being able to balance what I want to do and my selfish attitude with what's best for the family. And one of the biggest things I did occurred just over a year ago, when for 18 years I worked in college athletics. My career came first, and I said, you know, I've missed out on birthdays, Thanksgiving, Easters, all of these holidays and different functions, and put so much responsibility on my wife. And I tell people, looking back on it, my wife was a saint to put up with me being gone as much as I was, to try to, and when I was on the road, I would say I was present, I was checking in, I was doing that, but to help solve some of the logistical things, like, okay, if we got 2 functions, wife is one person, how can she get 2 kids to 2 separate places at the same time? You know, the way she was able to juggle all of that, I think we got into about month 3 or 4 of me being at the new job, and I looked at her and said, how did you do this for 9 years? It's unbelievable how you were able to balance all of this. And so I go back and I reflect on that. And I was like, she sacrificed a lot. And sometimes, and like I said, I'm selfish, and I think we all are selfish in our own ways at different times. But to be able to reflect on that, and okay, I need to be a better person. And what I find really beneficial is, I think a lot of people within F3 can say many of the same things. You know, we have our own selfish attitudes. And how did you, or have you been in this situation? How did you respond? What advice do you have? But we as men just have to ask.
Yeah, I love that, man. And you know what I think? You're telling every guy's story here, right? Because it's so, we can all identify with this. What I think is so different, or what I love about F3, is that as you're going through this struggle, the guys in F3 are going to push you toward, like, away from F3 to your family. And that, to me, that creates a stronger pull back to the group. It's this weird thing, right? Most groups, if you were saying, oh, I can't come to this group thing because I got to do family stuff, they'd say, no, come on, stay with the group. But everybody in F3 is like, you're right, your family's a priority. Your family's a priority. And I just love that, because then we really are, like, sticking true to what we care about, which is that concentric piece. So what, well, go ahead with your comment. I was going to ask you a little bit about Q-Source and maybe how that impacted some of your thought process.
That's exactly where I was going to go. And, I think, 2 years we've gone through Q-Source in my time twice at Paradise. And I think the first time I was more of a listener and just tried to take in what everybody said. And I absorbed a lot of stuff about the Concentrica, and, putting your M right in the middle and then branching out from there. And that's really where I started to really reflect on, okay, what am I doing to be a better husband, to be a better father? Sure, you start to think about the things you missed out on, and do you want to be more present? And I thought Q-Source really opened my eyes to a lot of that. And that's when I really began thinking about, do I really want to continue in the profession I was in at that time, at the place I was at. Certainly there's other opportunities outside of college athletics, high school athletics. Well, does that change a ton? The thing about athletics is when athletic events take place at night and on the weekends, no matter if you're talking high school or college. So that's when I really began thinking to myself, okay, I'm probably going to have to make a career change or hope that this unicorn position outside of college athletics or outside of athletics opens up within a certain time period. So I took a leap of faith and decided that spending more time with my family, being at home, no nights, no weekends, being able to watch my kids compete in their events. I think I watched more than 2 or 3 dozen games from a phone that my wife was trying to FaceTime me. So it's just not the same.
Well, what's interesting is I've noticed on our pre-runs, right? With your previous job and your new job, the context of our conversations has changed to where it's no longer, I wouldn't say that our first initial conversations were surface level. It's just we were connecting about sports in your job, where now me being a new father and you having kids and your focus now shifting to more of your family, that we're connecting on a completely different level than we were before. And all because you made the decision to, hey, like, this is a priority to me. This isn't anymore. So I'm going to make this shift, be intentional with what I'm doing. And then, look at the fruits of your labor. Like, I think we're closer now just based off this decision you made than we were before. And I know I wasn't your intended audience by making that choice, but I think it's important to highlight like how much of an effect it can have.
No, I would agree with you. And I ran into this a lot. When you work in college and you work in athletics, period, everybody thinks you want to talk athletics. And initially, that's what I really enjoyed about F3. When you show up, nobody cares what your profession is. It was an outlet for me to not have to talk about athletics. But when people find out you work in athletics, it's an easy conversation starter. So that's where people want to go, and so you end up talking about it. But I still love sports, but yes, I would agree. You're able to be more intentional, Pony, and have deeper conversations. I think one of the first things Plague and I talked about after this was probably a year ago, after I changed careers, is it gave my wife and I an opportunity. We began a Bible study group at the church. It gave us more time together to be together. Whereas before, it was a matter of, okay, we're going to divide and conquer because it's always been my wife doing everything by herself. Well, where can I pick up the pieces versus her and I having quality time together?
Man, it's so cool because there's so many, my mind is just going crazy with just your journey. And it's reminding me of Wait Time. So for those of you that know Wait Time, he started F3 Omaha. But when he went through a job transition and lost a job, that actually was the reason he moved here. And his response to that was like, it didn't appear to faze him. And when I remember asking him about it, and it really came down to his relationship and his identity with work, like work was not the center of that. And so I just remember thinking like, wow, if we could get one guy to like de-identify with work as being, who he is, think of the impact we could have on families and communities. And you start hearing that in people's stories. And what's really cool I see is you think about, disruption, right? So, leaders influence through disruption, and like, think how disruptive this would be. If many guys would say, I can't make that kind of transition, right? But you are proof that, like, here you are, you're okay, and life's actually at a better spot. And you see other guys making job transitions for similar reasons now, because we're starting to kind of get this idea that, like, I don't have to be defined by my job, So I don't know, how has the transition been? I mean, I'm assuming it was scary, and like, how did you work through all of that, if other guys are curious?
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, and I would still say I'm uncomfortable. What I'm doing is not me. I prefer to be in front of people, be face to face, have good conversations, develop a relationship. At times, what I'm doing feels very transactional, and both parties are trying to get something out of it. But you just continue to put myself out there and continue to embrace being uncomfortable. Even before F3, before doing this, I always had a mantra: be comfortable being uncomfortable. And part of that was because of the profession I was in. You never knew when somebody was going to suffer a head or neck injury, and you're going to have to put your training to use. So can you be comfortable being in uncomfortable situations, and relying on your training, relying on your knowledge to just continue to push forward. No matter what you're doing, you're going to have ups and downs, any career, any profession. And there are weeks where I sit here, I make a ton of phone calls, I get zero production. And there are weeks where all of a sudden, all those phone calls I made 2-3 weeks ago, all of a sudden becomes some fruit of my labor. So I sit there and it's like, okay, it'll pay off. And in the end, I always believe things will work out. Do I feel like this is a permanent position? It has to be the last job I ever have? No, I truly believe this is a transition to find something that will fulfill me more, where I can have a greater impact on people, on my community. Like I said, it's purely transactional right now. And, I'd love to have a greater impact on people.
Well, and that's good for people to hear too, right? I mean, that it's okay to have a job that you go to and you do your best, but it's not your favorite thing that you get to do all day. Like I think some of us, myself included, we can get stuck in like searching for the job that aligns with our passion, and sometimes if I chase my passions, I'm going to make some really selfish decisions, and so I think we got
your passion just needs to be making money, baby.
It
doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, but I am curious, Icy, what as you think about F3, like one of the things we're trying to do, right, is equip leaders, or reinvigorate male community leadership. I mean, man, getting a guy to lead better at his family, that sounds like what we're doing. We're doing an okay job, but what are your thoughts from a leadership perspective, being a site Q? I mean, how are we doing equipping men to lead well in their community?
I think we do a great job. We do a good job of taking that new guy, giving them an opportunity to lead their first workout. The thing, we've all been there, where we think we have to create the world's best BQ. Okay, the best beat down. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We don't sleep well that night. We want to have an impactful COT. The workout, it'll be fine. And what we do better than anything is we encourage our fellow packs to just put their best foot forward, do the best they can. It's a grinder. if you put a 4-man grinder together, it's a 4-man grinder. If you do something a little more creative, it's fine. But we give them an opportunity to have their first workout cue. We give them an opportunity to, if they're passionate about something, bring it forward. We'd love to help, whether it's Project Pink, it's coat drives, it's Thankful Trot. I mean, so many different things that are out there, and we're in that time of the year where we're going to get hit up here a lot with different things. But we give men an opportunity for them to continue to impact their community, to be a leader. If somebody shows interest in being a site Q, and sometimes not everybody shows an interest. Sometimes it takes a little prodding. And hey, you'd be really good at this. Have you given it any thought? And then once they become a site Q, it's on, nobody's telling them how they need to lead or how they need to fill their Q count schedule. That's up to each individual site Q, and that's what I find interesting a little bit, because you get to see how different people lead. You get those people, you get some people who want to get their Q schedule filled out for 6 months, and you get others that 3 weeks out is plenty, because you never know who's going to end up canceling on you, have something come up, or you got somebody that's a new guy and you want to get their VQ at your site. So it's giving them different opportunities, and then just to see how different site Qs may add a twist to their location. Like Chernobyl at the pit, he's added an opportunity during the COT to basically call out a guy who's accelerating, and whoever that may be at the end of a workout, and that person doesn't even have to be present. It could be somebody within the community that's been posting at those sites for a period of time. And, hey, this person, they've been accelerating, they're pushing themselves, they're participating in things that they probably hadn't done before. I find that stuff really impactful, but also special. So I love what guys are doing to not just have the status quo, add their twist to a site, but even though you're not a site Q, you have opportunities to impact your community, impact the packs, and find your own way to lead too.
So I guess in terms of your leadership there at Paradise, I mean, did you try and incorporate some things that were important to you? And then how did you go about kind of finding the next one in line?
Paradise. So I think the biggest challenge with Paradise was Paradise Bakery closing. For me, the most important thing for that site was Q-Source. And how can we ensure that we're impacting as many guys as possible through Q-Source? And we get a lot of guys that at various times throughout a Q-Source have to leave. And I always felt that if you had to put people in a car and drive to a location, you were going to lose some people that otherwise would have stayed if Q-Source was on site. So that, to me, that was the biggest challenge we encountered during my time as Site Q, because I wanted to make sure that we kept Q-Source on site. So we had a couple options. One, of course, was to find another location to have it, but that meant getting in your car and then driving to that location. The option that we ended up going with, which was just planting the flag down at Wheatfields and Q-Source right there at Wheatfields. Through a connection with Black Lung, we were able to get in with Wheatfields. They were going to open an hour earlier for us. One of the waitresses, Anne is wonderful. She'd do, she'd make sure you had plenty of coffee. But Anne would show up early. We had a place to sit, have a conversation, whether it was indoors or outdoors. and try to recreate what Paradise Bakery gave to us. It wasn't Paradise Bakery. It isn't Paradise Bakery, but it does allow us to keep as many guys as possible. We're able to start on time, which I find extremely beneficial. I know there were times at Paradise Bakery where, you know, by the time you'd start, it might be about 6:20. You really wanted to get going about no later than 6:15. At Wheatfields, we were able to start by 10 after 6 most days because the coffee's on the table and we can go. Now, there were some challenges at Wheatfields. There still are some challenges there. Whether it's how do we pay, you know, at Paradise Bakery, you had different options besides just black coffee. So, you know, different things. But I think when you look at what is the purpose is to have a Q-source discussion where people are able to share what's on their heart and mind, and open up on particular subjects, you know, and keep as many people as possible after the beatdown. So when we look back at what are the goals, we're able to accomplish that at Wheatfields. And I think for me, that was the biggest challenge of leading Paradise Bakery or Paradise Island, was when we switched locations. Now, obviously, you know, Retweet has taken over. That when I was searching for somebody, I found Paradise Island is a very veteran-led site. So one day I looked around the circle and I just kind of went around, and this was during a Name-A-Rama, and I'm sitting here going, current site queue, old site queue, old site queue. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, who am I going to turn this over to? And Retweet was a guy that was at Paradise a lot early on. And then, of course, he came down with an injury, and his consistency waned a little bit because of that injury, and being able to run kind of aggravated his injury. So, but Retweet and I have known each other for a long time. Actually, our paths crossed when I was at Iowa Western Community College, and there was I think we shared a patient once or twice during my time there. And so I'd known him a long time. And when he showed up, I want to say that it was the day after Christmas in 2020, possibly, maybe 21, it was 2020. I didn't even realize he was there until he got in the middle and said his name, and we reconnected right there. But, you know, Retweet is a guy that is always positive, always encouraging. He and I have grown close, had several pre-runs together, but I couldn't believe when I was looking for a site queue that he hadn't been a site queue yet. And I said, hey, I called him up and said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Are you interested? And he goes, I don't need to think about it. I'll do it. And I was ecstatic, first off, because as I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of stress and anxiety building up and knowing that school was starting. It was going to be a challenge for me to continue to lead Paradise. And so Retweet and I, we had lunch. He goes, hey, what day are you thinking? I gave him a date, and he goes, yeah, I'm already leading elsewhere on that day. I said, what about the following week? He goes, yeah, that day works. So that's how we settled. I think that date was September 14th. And, you know, Paradise is in good hands. There's no question. We've witnessed his leadership abilities, whether it was leading the CSOP we had, his ability to connect with different PACs members. Like I said, he's a super energetic, positive guy that is going to do great things for Paradise, and I already know he's got big things planned.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely, man. It was cool just to be there, be a part of it, and you know, the way you navigated the move. You know, we haven't had too many shovel flags move. I don't know that we've actually had any other than Paradise. So just appreciate the way that you navigated that change from a leadership perspective. I am curious, and I want to be respectful of your time, but a couple things maybe we haven't gotten to dive into, third F kind of faith or even just like advice for PAX. I know we have a lot of guys that maybe are still unsure about Q Source. What's on your mind that you would love to share just with guys that are listening?
The third F, when it comes to the third F, there's so many different opportunities. And I know I don't know if you were on yet, Plague, when Pony and I were kind of talking third F. Third F, a lot of people think, church, my religion. And for me, and this has changed over the course of maybe just being an F3. If people would say faith, I would immediately go to church. Okay. And that would be my thought. But, for me, faith is, everybody has their beliefs, whatever those beliefs are. I think we all share a belief that we believe in something higher than ourselves. And that's where I am with people. And even with myself, I have got two younger sisters, and I think, religion kind of has created some arguments in the past, but just based on beliefs. And to me, it's, hey, you have a belief, you have a conviction towards your belief. I'm good with that. And that's where I'm at now. Hey, I grew up going to Catholic schools, K through 12. So church has always been an important part. One of the things that I've always, my wife and I have shared is a common belief in God. And it's important to our family. It's important that we instill that in our kids. Now, at some point, it'll be up to them to make their own decisions, but that's where we're at. Now, I really believe, the opportunities that F3 gives us when it comes to our third F, whether it's the food bank, the food pantry, it's the donating blood, it's giving back to our community in some shape. And participate now. It doesn't have to be any big time commitment. We've done and a lot of what I've done as a family. So as a family, we've done the Heartland food pantry on that Saturday morning. My kids actually absolutely love going. They love handing out the food. We've done the Abide on that Saturday. Go out there. That one is a little bit more, depending upon where they place you, it's a little bit more strenuous. I thought that was a good experience. Of course, the different the different donations you can give, certainly there's those opportunities. But I would encourage every PAX member to participate in something. One of those volunteer opportunities. When I went to Creighton Prep, volunteer was a big part of what we did as students there. So to be able to have some of these opportunities to participate in those again, certainly is, I enjoy it. I think it's good to expose my kids to it, to kind of see other walks of life and, some of their struggles. Sometimes you complaining about what we're having for dinner isn't that big of a deal compared to some others.
Man, I love that. And that's, I'm just waiting we have a 7-year-old that will be hopefully old enough soon to go out and participate in some of those events. But yeah, I'm hopeful that we can do more of that. And I think you're spot on, right? I mean, I think the beauty is there's an abundance of things that a guy could go and do, right, with his family or without, depending on their schedule. But having those opportunities is really priceless for, how do we give back to the community? I am curious too, so somebody that grew up with faith and, one of the things that I feel like I hear a lot is a guy grew up going to church and then feels like he was maybe burned by the church or has just become distant, in his relationship with God or the church. And I guess what I hope is that we're creating a space to kind of start exploring again, like what does that look like? Is it, you don't have to remain, distant or separated from God forever, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Are we providing that space, do you think, for guys to kind of explore that relationship?
I do. I think we provide that. I think what guys have to be okay with is asking questions. There's so many different opportunities. Some of us aren't satisfied with the church we currently go to, whether they don't like the preacher, the priest, the pastor, whatever it is. And then they just, well, I'm just not going to go. Well, there are other options out there. There are different churches. There's several PAX members that have searched and talked to other PAX members asking, hey, where do you go? What do you like about that church? So just really letting PAX members know, hey, you can ask. Don't be afraid to ask. It's kind of like, don't be afraid to say no. If you're overwhelmed and you're already on the Q schedule 3 times that week, you can say no.
Yeah. I need to take that advice. What about for you? What, as we see you out there, or as we're thinking about you, praying for you, where do you need encouragement for these days? What's going on in your world?
Just keep, if people see me, just continue to ask about how I'm doing, balancing, everything with the family, because I want to make sure I stay within those guardrails. So really just keep asking, thinking about me there, outside of that, I can't think of anything else.
Nice. One more thing I want to get your thoughts on. What would you say, kind of the elevator speech for Q-Source? What would, if a guy is like, I don't know about that, or why should I go? Or what would be your, how would you convince somebody, or just what would you tell them so that they knew more about it?
I would say Q-Source is it's a discussion, but just come and listen. Listen to other men talk. You don't even have to read the material ahead of time. Show up and just soak everything in, because chances are what somebody says will stick with you because you have either experienced what they're going through or you're currently experiencing what somebody's talking about.
That's perfect. I love it. I do think just getting guys engaged in that and some of the content there. I still, I just started a process reading through the Q-Source and journaling, because I want to actually do the challenges and some of the application stuff. There's some really powerful things just to go through. So I love Q-Source, will always be a passion of mine. Well, let's, anything else on your mind before we do Name-A-Rama?
All I want to say is thanks for the opportunity, Plague. I know Pony had to jump off, but I really enjoy the podcast, getting to know the PAX of F3 Omaha. I can't say there's one that sticks out above another, but I do find them the ability to get to know some of these PAX members maybe we don't have an opportunity to interact with, and listen to their journey within F3, where they're at, super beneficial. And thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, man. F3 needs every man, and every man needs F3 kind of thing. And I think I'm learning a lot just from listening to guys. So I'm glad you've been able to listen, and I'm glad you've been able to share your story. I think if guys are listening and they've identified with your journey, as I know they have, I would just say IC's always open to good conversation and good questions. And, so I would just offer that to guys. I think you got a lot of great insight to share. So appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
We'll do Name-A-Rama. I'll try to remember Pony's age. He always, I think today he's a little tired, maybe looking older than he is. But I'll start us off. Brandon Flehardy, 36, The Plague.
The Plague.
Let's do John Whitworth, 31, Pony Express.
Pony. Mike DeCola, 40, Icy Hot.
Icy Hot. And do we do is there like a sound? Have we come up with that yet? Okay.
No sound, just Icy Hot.
Just Icy Hot. And to be clear, not BioFreeze, it's Icy Hot. Love
That's right. Just the Shaq commercials.
Just, yeah.